definitely the relationships that I've developed there. I mean, I was down in Florida, and I go to a flywheelers convention, and I'm walking around. I see Buffalo Bill, the beef jerky guy, and then I text Redbeard, good old friend of mine, and sure enough, he's there. So I went over and we talked, and it's just those relationships, that I still have with those guys, and man, the diversity of the people, and of just learning and knowing how to deal with different walks of life.
All right, welcome to the Flea with Kirk and Seth, and we are here with a very special person to me, and it's my dad, Marion Coblentz. So we're excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
I'm excited to be a part of you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Kirk, you've been able to work a little bit with my dad as well before he went into retirement, but I'm sure you have a lot more questions than I do. I've heard a lot of stories and stuff from him growing up and just about how he grew up and that type of thing. But turn it over to you, buddy.
Well, yeah, and it's everybody that's close with Marion, loves Marion, knows a lot about. But I want this episode to let everybody outside of our area know who he is, what he's about, what drives him, and just what makes him such a godly man that he is. Because I look up to Marion very highly. I have the utmost respect for him, and I've learned a lot from him. And so I just thought this would be a great episode to, pay him some homage, give him some credit for everything that he's done over the last few years, and just have some fun. So, I know a lot of these memories you were around for, and maybe I wasn't, but I have a few memories with your dad when we were still. Remember we got yelled at him? Just because we were watching that one. Do you remember that, Marion?
I never yelled at anyone. Never.
Your voice was escalated a little bit.
I can't even remember what we were talking about.
We were in the office. We were watching a YouTube video for some inspiration for marketing. Okay, it was work oriented, and Marion comes in. He goes, "What do you say?" He goes, "We got a flea market to run, and you can't run it in this office." Never again did I watch that video. We went outside.
I'm like, okay, geez, Dad.
It's like I just started here. I'm so sorry, but no, we can. I got a couple points here. We can talk about it. Some questions. So let's start off, Marion. Talk about you growing up, because you grew up in the area, right? Around these parts, but maybe not in a traditional format that most people are aware of.
Yeah. I was born and raised Amish. Grew up driving a horse and buggy and going to church every Sunday with a horse and buggy and farming. And, it's at the age of 14, after finishing 8th grade, Dad said, "Hey, I need you to work on the farm. You're done working. You're done going to school. So it's time to start working. You're a man." And that's how I started working. So
8th grade education, right?
Yep, 8th grade education.
Now, they just tore down the church. Was that the first church that you went to, the Amish church?
That was the Amish church that I went to, yep.
Okay,
King Church.
Over on King Church. Yep. So, which is actually just right down the street from here. They just tore it down.
Oh, it's a recent thing.
Yeah, like within the last couple weeks. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep.
Dang.
Yep.
So 14, you're done with school, and you never went back, right?
Never went back. No.
So 8th grade was it.
Yep. I love to read. I read all the time, read tons of books, and so I kind of consider myself pretty much self-educated. Just read all about business and about doing life, and that's how it started. And then hit the road at 18. I love being Amish so much that after I turned 18, 3 days after I turned 18, I borrowed $20 from a friend of mine and hitchhiked to Florida.
And you got to Florida with that $20.
Oh yeah. I got to Florida and got a job working on bridge construction and was down there for almost a year, and then headed out to West Texas, worked in the oil fields for a while, and was out west for a while, and ended up hitchhiking from Great Falls, Montana, back down to Florida.
And this would have been in the mid-'70s, probably, right?
Yes, 74 is when I turned 18.
Did you call Grandma and Grandpa when you got there? They didn't have a phone, did they?
No. The guy that actually it was a relative of ours. I stayed. He had a camper behind his house, and he said, "Well, Marion," he says, you should probably call your mom and dad, huh, and let them know you're here." And I said, "Nah, that's fine." And
that's fine.
I never called them.
And that road trip was probably one of the best things you've ever done.
It was. I think about that road trip. Those 2 years, I packed a lot in those 2 years.
So road trip ends. You come back home at some point, right?
Yeah, I after working in the oil fields in West Texas, and hitchhiking back down to Florida, I hitchhiked back home, and did some work around here. Did some construction work, and met Nancy, my wife, Seth's mom, and we got married, and in 1977.
So how'd you meet Nancy?
How did I meet Nancy? She was working at Hartville Kitchen Restaurant, and I went in there and had lunch, and she caught my eye, and so I asked her out, and
The rest is
rest
history.
is history.
Rest is history.
Yep.
So and then along came me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. That was,
Jeez, come on.
That's okay. Okay, you guys get married in 77.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first involvement with the family business?
Nancy's dad, Howard, he's kind of the brainchild behind all our business, and we had the restaurant, the hardware, and the flea market going at that time. And one night when I brought Nancy home, we were sitting there, and he happened to be there, and he said, "Marion," he says, "well, you need some more help at the hardware. You want to come work for us at the hardware? You need a stock boy." So I thought, you know what? It's October. Tired of winters outside. It sounds pretty good. So I jumped at the opportunity. I worked at the hardware for about 4 years, and then the flea market opportunity came along with Hartville Arabians. We got into Arabian horses, and so I started training and showing Arabian horses, and ran the flea market, which was very small, dusty, dirty little flea market. Only open Mondays and Thursdays at that time. And so we that was 1980. Same year that we bought this property where we now sit. We bought 200 acres here, and our long-term vision was to eventually move all our businesses to one location. And
Well, the cool thing about this property too is that the property belonged to the Coblentz side, your side of the family. Is that correct? At one point,
that's right. That's right. I was Joe Coblentz, which would have been my great grandfather, which would be Seth's great grandfather. Moved down. He was actually the first Amish bishop that moved to Hartville, Ohio, and bought this farm, and so now we are doing business there.
yeah, that's cool.
And that was part of Howard Sr.'s dream, wasn't it, to have all the businesses at one location, one property?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Grandpa was definitely one of the he had a vision that a lot of people didn't have, but he cared so much about the family. I feel like that he wanted the community and our family to be together, and we grew up together too. Like our whole family grew up. Our houses were all right around each other, and we still go. Over 80 of us still go on vacations every couple years together. So that was one of the things that he really held pretty high for us, I think.
Yeah. He really did.
up.
He really established that for us, and that camaraderie and that family unity that he developed was pretty special.
Yeah. What did Grandpa say? I was thinking about when you and Mom went to Grandpa Howard and asked him, or told him that you guys were going to get married. Wasn't there a story there that I kind of forget the whole thing, but
I think there is a story.
There is a story there. I'm 20 years old. Nancy is 17 years old, and we decided that we're going to get married. And so we went up into Howard's office, and I'm sweating. I'm sweating big time. Howard's sitting there. He's got papers stacked up all over his desk, and he's sitting there, and we walk in, sit down, and he's shuffling a bunch of papers, and he literally didn't even look up. I mean, he just kept working, and I said, "Howard," I said, "Nancy and I are wanting to get married, or I said, we are getting married. And he said, no, you're not. He kept on working. So we kind of went from there. And, I can't say that he ever really said, I'm glad you guys are married. He did years down the road, but, he never, but he accepted it. Even though we moved forward with the wedding, and he accepted it. He paid for the wedding, so that was a good thing.
I think he accepted it.
Yeah, he accepted it. So.
And you guys, and I just know from, as I grew up and kind of saw you and Grandpa, you guys ended up having a really, really good relationship and, close relationship. And, I think the flea market to my grandpa, to Grandpa Howard was always like one of his favorite parts of the business, right?
It was. Howard and I spent a lot of time, just drawing up plans and figuring out what we're going to do as we talking about moving the flea market over here. And that was always kind of his passion. I remember traveling with him. We'd go to the hardware shows and stuff like that, and we'd always stop at flea markets. Or if I was down in Florida and he was down there, we would end up going to a flea market or to a bookstore, used bookstore. He had a deep desire to read. He loved to read also. So yeah, we had a lot in common.
Yeah, and you should have at your old house, the house that I grew up in. I don't know if Kirk, did you ever see his library that he had?
Oh yeah.
So
it was super impressive.
How high were those bookshelves?
I think they were 16 feet.
So the 16 feet and probably
24 feet wide.
24 feet wide, and they were completely full of books.
And I think I asked you the one time I was over if you've read most of them, and to your knowledge, you read most of the books that were in there.
Yeah, when I say most of them, 75% of them would probably, yeah.
I think I've read like 5 whole books my whole life, so that's pretty impressive. I'm not a reader, so I envy people that can pick up a book and read. So
yeah.
So let's talk about the Flea. So about 40 years you were involved with the Flea, pretty close to that, right?
Yep,
Plus
exactly 40 years.
Plus the antique shop when that was up and running across the street as well, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you got 40 years of experience with anything from antiques, junk, all people, walks of life. What were some of the positive and the things that you took away from the flea market, as you're in retirement now? What got you going the most, and what do you hold dear to your heart?
Definitely the relationships that I've developed there. I was down in Florida, and I go to a flywheelers convention, and I'm walking around. I see Buffalo Bill, the beef jerky guy, and then I text Redbeard, good old friend of mine, and sure enough, he's there. So I went over and we talked, and it's just those relationships, that I still have with those guys, and man, the diversity of the people, and of just learning and knowing how to deal with different walks of life. There's, Seth knows, and Kirk, also, you're learning as you're going that, boy, there's so much diversity out there every week, and the surprises that happen, things happen that shock you almost every time you go out there.
Yeah, it's crazy the difference in you could be walking down and there might be two vendors angry at each other over a space, and you have to de-escalate that situation. Then you could walk another 20 feet and there might be a lady there that's sick and asks you to pray for her. So it's crazy what you'll run into out there, and there are so many different personalities, but they're all, I've learned in my 5, 6 or whatever years I've been involved. A lot of the flea market vendors are very generous. They are, even if they don't, have a lot of money or have a lot to offer, they are all very, very generous with their stuff.
They are.
I don't know. I've always been just surprised with their generosity. Everyone was willing to give you something. They won't take money from you. They know you have kids, so they send stuff home so you can give it for your kids. And I don't know. You're right. It's all relationships, and I truly think, even though there's things that negative happen or people complain, but I think the vendors and the customers, they really enjoy and care about the flea market, and I think they want to see it, go on and on. Because obviously now the flea market's way different now than it was 40 years ago. I'm assuming it has changed significantly.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, 40 years ago there were no Dollar Generals, there were no Walmarts, there were no convenience stores. So the thrifting of things has shifted a little bit now. What are some of the differences of HMP today, other than Seth obviously running the show now, versus like 20 years ago? Because the building's 20 years old now. It's been on
20 years this year.
20
years.
This
is our 20-year anniversary.
Right.
This
so
year
what
at the new
differences?
location.
What differences do you see, Marion, now from 20 years ago when we first built the building?
The biggest difference that I have seen, I think Seth and I probably figured it out soon after he came on, is when we opened up back here, that this was a place to go to start a business. I mean, it was, and that's the way we had designed it. The flea market, where you went from this dusty, dirty, flea market into this blacktop, nice, air-conditioned, 100,000 square foot building, and it's a great opportunity for people to come. Well, it soon happened probably in 2008, when the economy kind of crashed, and all of a sudden, I wasn't getting the people. We weren't getting the people out there like we were, and we started doing a lot of interviewing with the vendors and people, and we soon figured out that what was happening is that people could open up their own store online stores. So they're instead of coming out here for 3-4 days a week, they're just doing online stores and doing the same amount or maybe even better business because they have a lot larger pull from different places. So that has really changed the flavor of what we had begun to do out there originally.
Yeah, technology advances, business models have to change and adjust,
and that's what you guys are still dealing with today.
Yeah,
right?
we and that's one of the things that we that's why we added how many events do we have this year? Different events.
A lot.
We have a lot. Every single week we have events. I mean, so much of who we are is about experience, So when people come out there, they're coming there to have an experience. So, the events, there's things that are unique out there that are different, I feel like, than just things that you can find in a regular retail location. I mean, if you go to Target or Walmart, you're just, you kind of know what you can expect or what you're going to get. But, if you go out to the flea market, I mean, there's collectors all over the place, and people that they don't realize what they have out there. And you can, I mean, it's for me, I love, like we've always called it treasure hunting. So it's almost like you're on a treasure hunt out there, trying to find certain things, or even just like not even expecting something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I remember that from when I was a kid, and just the nostalgia of those things out there. And then our indoor shops, I think, is what that's kind of what makes us even more unique, is that we have the the consistency of the indoor shops and people that are trying to make it as a business, and then also the outdoor flea market. So it's definitely one of those things that is going to be a constant challenge for us. But we're always, I feel like Kirk and I and the rest of our team is really just trying to continue to make it a destination and make it an experience for people when they come to the campus.
And what's cool about the experience is it's generational. So we have so many people that come out and go, oh, I came out here as a kid, and I'd come with my grandpa, and we'd come here every weekend or every Monday. And so they're carrying on those experiences with the next generation. So we got to figure out a way to keep that snowball effect going, right, and have people coming back. Let's switch gears for a sec. I want you to, Marion, to talk to us about, and I know this is really important to you and to the whole family, is your work in Haiti and all the different things that you've done down there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how long you've been involved with it?
Haiti's been pretty passionate. I've been pretty passionate about Haiti for a long time. First time I went down was in 2000, 22 years ago. I went down, and I've been going down every year since. Actually, the last year and a half has probably been the longest I've been away from Haiti, mainly because it's really tough times right now down there. A lot of kidnappings going on and stuff like that. But we are continuing to build a few houses now down there. We have a little block machine down there, and Gerard, our guy down there, he actually had to put a hold on it the last couple of weeks because there's just so much gang fighting and too dangerous to go out on the streets and things like that. But yeah, I'm still involved, talk to them weekly down there, and pretty passionate about Haiti. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, you definitely are. I mean, you went there and caught malaria and were in the hospital for, how long were you in the hospital for?
Yeah, when Jared, Seth's brother, was down there and the earthquake happened, I flew down, one-way ticket, flew into the DR, and then made a contact with a UN pilot that flew me over into Port-au-Prince because the airport was shut down, and he had a small two-seater plane that he flew me over in. And then I spent about 3 weeks down there. Came back with malaria. Almost died from it. Lost.
They thought it was H1N1, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's when H1N1
What year was that, Marion? Do you remember?
That was in 2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010. And found a big tumor in my stomach, and Altman Hospital didn't want to deal with it because it was so large. So they sent me to Cleveland Clinic, and they operated on me, and everything's fine. Everything was good.
Treated him for malaria and took care of that. You know, God definitely, that was one thing I always remember is that, we thought worst thing in the world, like, you came back, you were so sick, and found out you had malaria, which is obviously a dangerous thing, and you lost a bunch of weight. But, through that whole thing, they found that tumor, which, who knows if that would have ever been, or how long that would have went on without, if God hadn't allowed us to be able to, that type of thing to happen. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't know what God is doing until later on down the line, and we say, "Oh, okay, that's what He was doing through all that."
It was definitely a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy.
Doctor told me if I would have waited another 24 hours, I wouldn't have survived the malaria. So
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't get out of Haiti because of flight complications, flying out on a small plane out of Haiti and flying into Turks and Caicos. But I almost didn't make that flight. They almost deterred me from getting on that. But if I wouldn't have made that flight out of there, I would have had malaria in Haiti, and I probably wouldn't be here today.
So you had 40 years with family business, Haiti. You got kids, grandkids. So what are you doing nowadays? I know you're building a home, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So what keeps you going? What are you up to? I mean, I know you stop in and see us from time to time, but what big things are you getting into?
I get to do what I want to do, and I don't have to do what anybody tells me to do,
get to
except
do
for
what-
Nancy. I have to
I
do
was
whatever
gonna say,
whatever
that's
Nancy
right.
tells me to do.
Yep.
Well, I've always felt that when I retire, that I want to give back to the business community, and I've got involved with got certified as a coach through Giant Leadership, and that's been really been meeting with a lot of young entrepreneur guys and been coaching them, and that's been really rewarding. So I spend my time doing that, and living in my RV until we get our house built.
You are homeless for a while.
I am
but
homeless.
That's okay.
I am homeless. I'm a flea market. I'm a true flea marketer.
We are going to have to start charging you rent though for keeping your camper over at the property.
Hey, one thing that I do want to remember though is one of the things that probably the most influential time in my life was the opportunity to be able to work with you and to work alongside you, because before I took over at the marketplace, I had 3-4 years that I worked there with you and was able to observe how you operated. And one of the things that I would say is, my dad was always genuine in the way he treated other people. And, there's nobody that is more important than another person. And, he truly cared about, whoever you were. He was going to give you the time, he's going to talk to you. He truly cared about, every single person that walked in that building. And, our community, being very involved in the community and, those things that I was able to observe and see has been able to help me. And the other thing too is, anytime that I'm struggling or don't know what to do and decisions that I need to make, first person I call is you, and you're always there. You always give good advice. I don't know how. I mean, it's definitely God, wisdom that you have, that is
no
able
doubt.
to always kind of know what to tell me and know what kind of advice to give me.
Yep,
So,
I always enjoy those calls, Seth. No doubt about it.
yep, I appreciate it. So.
Any closing words, Marion, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's awesome to watch you guys working out there and seeing you guys work. Your team is just you got a great team out there, and man, I just pray God's favor on you guys and continue to bless you guys. And what you guys are doing is what I've always wanted to do, is have more events. I love the events, just having the huge crowds come out and the activity, and that's fun to see. So whenever you guys have events, I'm there. So keep it up, you guys.
Yep.
Unless you're in Florida.
Unless
you're
I'm in Florida, yeah.
Yep.
Well, Seth and I both appreciate you taking the time to come and do this. We've, since we've been doing the podcast, this has been one that it's been important for me and for Seth to do.
Yep.
We wanted to kick this all off with you being a part of it. So
Yeah, it's an honor to be a part of this.
So we appreciate it, and stop out at the flea market. You'll see Marion in the food court if it's maybe breakfast or lunchtime, since he's homeless.
Yeah, that is kind of funny though. Like, we used to always see the guys out in the food court eating breakfast in the morning and just talking, chatting, having coffee.
The old guys.
Now I look out there and I see my dad out there, having breakfast and coffee with them. So
We are solving all the problems in the world. You know how well the world is being run right now? It's because of us solving those problems.
You probably have some really interesting conversations.
Oh, man, do we ever.
So, and one other thing I do want to clarify, Grandpa Coblentz, we talked about, my dad hitchhiking and leaving home, and not calling back or not letting Grandpa and Grandma, know, oh, no, they're fine. But,
I did call like 3 times in those 2 years.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. But when he came back, he that relationship was a stronger relationship, and I know Grandma and Grandpa. I even was able to have a relationship with them, and Grandpa worked for my dad and at the flea market and would be there every day. Drove his tractor, his big Case International tractor, up to the flea market every single day, and
he didn't have a car.
Didn't have a car, so he drove that up there, and so that relationship is. Was very strong all the way to the end of their life, and so I just wanted to make sure that people knew that. So
Yeah, good point.
I know that was good. That was strong. So
Yeah.
that was it.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Okay.
So
Stay tuned for more episodes.
there might be a part 2 on this one at some point. So
There very well could be. What we should do is bring your mom in.
Oh,
and
we should. Yes.
Then we'll
Let's
get
do
the
it.
Then we'll get the truth.
Let's do it.
I'm not sure you want that.
Hey, and you know what? When we have me and all my brothers in town, we should do all the brothers.
That would be fun.
Talk about.
Round table. Oh
You
my
know,
god.
I
Talk
think
about
I
all
sh-
your girlfriends.
I'll
and
lead that one. I'll talk
awkward-
about how I'm the better basketball player out of all of them. So
I mean, if we're talking shooting percentage,
Right.
Eric's records speak for themselves.
no,
but
Eric
it's-
shot way too many shots. That's why he shot probably 3 times as much
as
as
a
me.
scoring leader, he had to. All right,
Get
thanks.
outta here.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Thanks, Dad.
Yep. Thanks. It's great to be here.